Welcome to the Drone Camps channel. If you believe in freedom, truth, and the right to fly your drone, please do click that subscribe button and the notification bell for when the new videos come out for new drone news and product reviews. Today I'm here to bring you more information on the DJI implementation into the FY25 Act, which is the NDAA Act for 2025, the National Defense. More good news for DJI pilots in the United States. The Senate has a little further information to bring us today on the NDAA Act, which is supposed to go to the Senate floor very soon. We're going to talk about what those changes are to that bill and if it's going to go back to the House floor for reconciliation with the Senate and if they're going to approve that. We're also going to take a look at the version of the NDAA that the Senate has to say. So if we look at this article here on Drone Life, it says that the U.S. Senate published their version of the National Defense Authorization Act 2025, which is also S 4638, and the NDAA FY25 on July 8th. Back on July 8th, we saw that the NDAA must pass legislation establishing funding for military agencies, U.S. military agencies. Among broader issues that may be at stake in the current act, there are pay raises and health care provisions for U.S. military families. The NDAA is also a critical piece of legislation for the drone industry, directing funding and use of both military and dual-use drone technology, i.e. first responders and public safety. This year, the House version of the act included the Counter CCP Drones Act, which we talked about before, which Elise Stefanik, Republican of New York, introduced, which got lumped into the NDAA 25 Act, which could limit the use of DJI technology in the United States. Now, the Senate version of FY25, otherwise known as the NDAA Act, is going a bit further as far as the limitation of Chinese-produced goods and technology for military use. It does say that it's going to limit the purchase of garlic or seafood, even garlic or seafood grown in China to feed our troops, Chinese tutoring services, computers, and printers manufactured in China, and the expenditure on entertainment linked to China by our military service members. It does not include the Countering CCP Drones Act, which is good news for DJI pilots. The Act, however, does have many provisions related to drone and counter UAS technology. Rather than include the Countering CCP Drones Act, the executive summary of S 4638 devotes a section to developing American UAS capabilities. So the Senate's version of this bill removes DJI from the wording and adds more support and domestic manufacturing of SUAS in the United States. This directs a report on the Army's current small UAS, otherwise known as SUAS, funding on model and proposal for consolidation of funding lines to improve fiscal agility in the portfolio, which means they're going to add more money to American domestic manufacturing of SUAS. And for our economy, that's great news. This bill authorizes increased funding for the development of new and innovative design, manufacturing, production, and techniques for low-cost attributable uncrewed systems, as well as the development of distributed artificial intelligence fusion for such type of systems. It requires a strategy to develop a secure domestic and allied supply chain of critical components for small UAS. So we are seeing an emphasis on small UAS in production for military use, domestic and overseas. There's also a focus on countering SUAS in overseas and domestic. In this bill, it talks about different UAS technologies that they would like to make more funding available for, such as the requirements of established counter uncrewed aircraft system, also known as US UAS task force to review guidance relating to SUAS activities. It also directs the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to provide briefings on respective service plans for counter UAS capabilities. There's also some wording in here that directs a briefing on the acquisition of military-grade UAS by foreign terrorist organizations. And there is much more UAS wording in this document, but there is also now, again, no wording about DJI. So where does that take us next in this bill, in this process with the Senate and the House? So right now, as it stands, NDAA FY25, it's going to head to the Committee on Armed Services, the Senate Committee on Armed Services, and the bill will go to the Senate floor for debate, and then amendments may be added to this bill. bill. The bill would then go on to the full vote in the Senate. Now, if differences between the House version and the Senate version remain, a conference committee will be formed consisting members from both the Senate and the House committees on the armed services, and the conference committee will work to reconcile these differences between the two versions and produce a conference report. The conference report, if then, is sent back to both the Senate and the House for final approval. And both chambers must approve the reconciliated version of the bill, which we told you last week. But there's also the crux of the presidential veto, which right now President Biden is saying he is going to veto the current proposed wording of NDAA 2025. President Biden says he's going to veto this bill, not related to drone use, but something to do with culture war issues, whatever that may be, but that is unrelated to the drone industry. If you'd like to take a look at that document, I'll put it in the video description link down below. It's a statement by the administration saying that they're going to indeed veto what has currently been proposed with the NDAA FY25. So this obviously makes DJI very happy, and they have responded to all of the advocacy from DJI drone pilots and first responders in the United States, and they are asking for further advocacy for the issues with DJI operations in the United States. So keep on doing what you're doing. It seems to be working, and lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are hearing what you guys are saying on the internet. DJI made a post on their Instagram today stating that the U.S. Senate has released its version of the National Defense Authorization Act, and it does not currently include provisions that would impact your right to use DJI products in the U.S. market. While it is positive development, read and learn why there's more to watch out for. So they're asking for further advocacy for your right to fly DJI drones in the United States. They went on to thank drone pilots for this advocacy through this post, and DJI was quoted as saying, "But first, a thank you. Thank you for making your voices heard in the past weeks, engaging with your senators and representatives to urge them to oppose any legislation that would restrict safe and responsible use of your drones. As we continue to do our part to defend your rights to use our products in the U.S. market, we want to keep you updated on the latest developments," saying also that the Armed Service Committee released its version of 2025 National Defense Authorization Act last week. It does not currently include the language that impacts DJI's operation in the U.S., which is the same news that we brought you previously. They're regurgitating that. On the next part of their post, they went on to give you further information about the Senate FY25 NDAA Act, which is scheduled for floor consideration soon, but we talked about that and how they have kind of omitted the Countering CCP Drones Act, which is great news. On further to say, so what can I do? The next part of their post says, so what can I do? The current Senate bill without the CCP PDA is a positive development, as it shows that your efforts and voices can make a difference. However, there are still ways for bills like the CCC PDA to be incorporated into the FY25 NDAA or other legislative packages in the coming months. And it also says that Congress is in recess in August, which means your senators and representatives will be back home in your area. This is an opportune time for the U.S. drone community to continue sharing your stories. And they put a website at the very bottom of that post saying you can make your voice heard through droneadvocacyalliance.com if you want to check that out. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, and if you are someone who works commercially with DJI drones, if you're a first responder or somebody who does it professionally for film works or real estate, make sure that you contact your local representatives and voice your opinion on the ban, the possible ban of DJI drone use in the United States. This is making a huge difference, so it is making an impact on what's happening in Washington, D.C., which these days, you guys know, it takes an entire community to be heard, not just a couple people. So I appreciate all of the efforts and your time, your emails, your phone calls to your representatives in your local area, because I think it is making an impact on the changes that are being added to FY25 NDAA. But thanks again for subscribing on the channel, guys. I'm Justin Davis. I appreciate you for watching. Click that subscribe button and the notification bell for when the new drone news comes out and reviews right here on the Drone Camps channel. I will see you on the next one.